Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. The huge news is that Warner Brothers just confirmed they're doing a Harley Quinn spin-off from Suicide Squad. It'll be a team-up, like a female-centric team-up. So let's talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. There are two big Harley Quinn team-ups that have happened in the last 20 years. One, there's Batman the Animated Series when she went on the big tear with Poison Ivy. That was a lot of fun. Then more recently, they did a big team-up comic book with Power Girl. Now, there's no way she's going to be teaming up with Power Girl in the movies. They're talking about teaming up with multiple female characters, so some of them we will have seen before in the DC movies by the time we get to that. But the thing you have to remember is that they've just announced that they're developing the project, like they have the concept, like, oh, let's do a Harley Quinn team-up movie. Sounds amazing. So let's start figuring this out. But they don't have a date, they don't have anyone hired to write the script, they haven't really done any of the larger stuff. The studio's just saying that they're going to start pursuing this. No idea how long it's going to take to make them. If they hired someone right away, they might be able to get a movie out in like 2 years. So what I'm expecting is they might try to get something going by the end of the year, and they'll sandwich this movie between the Justice League movies. Just for reference, Justice League Part 1 is supposed to come out November next year. Justice League Part 2 isn't coming out till summer 2019. So I definitely think they've seen the Suicide Squad footage, they really like what Margot Robbie is doing with the Harley Quinn character, and they want to get that movie out as fast as possible. So definitely sometime between 2017 and 2019, just anywhere in there, just depends on when they want to move films around. There's a whole lot of exciting stuff happening behind the scenes with all DC's films now. There are a few minor course corrections. One of the big changes that they've had is that they've fast-tracked the Booster Gold film, or at least they've put it back on the schedule. But I'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about Harley Quinn team-ups. Like, who do we want to see her actually team up with? Poison Ivy, right off the bat, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But in order to get to her, we might have to see her in a Batman solo film. So, like, they might try to get Ben Affleck's Batman solo film out first, introduce a whole bunch of characters they want to use in other films, like Poison Ivy. Batman's rogues gallery is enormous. Introduce more new characters during Justice League, so they just have a lot more choices with these spin-off films. Like, you don't have to keep introducing 5 new characters each time you have a new film. No idea how much Ben Affleck would appear in it. Batman is kind of like the Iron Man of the DC universe right now, like the Robert Downey Jr. that they just stick in all the films because he's doing so well. Batgirl would be a lot of fun. Jenna Malone was supposed to be playing a version of Barbara Gordon in Batman v Superman. Her scenes had to hit the cutting room floor, but supposedly she's going to be in the extended version of the movie. So we don't have Batgirl yet, but we do have Barbara Gordon. So it's pretty easy to jump through that hoop during Justice League. So we know we're going to have a lot of the Gordon family. So if they wanted to, they can totally do Batgirl eventually. And I think that is part of the plan. They don't have a timeline for it yet. Zatanna would be awesome, but they haven't really done magic yet in the DC universe. I think Suicide Squad is going to push into that a little bit. A big movie version of the Dinah Lance Canary would be awesome, like a metahuman Black Canary. Now, I don't want to get into spoilers from Arrow, but there have been some things that have happened with TV Black Canary this year. But this video is really just talking about awesome characters that they could throw into a Harley Quinn movie that she would have some fun with. Catwoman would be a lot of fun. Almost any of the female villains from Batman's Rogues Gallery. Just a reminder though, the only female villain characters that we'll have in the DC universe that will have been developed after Suicide Squad are Katana, Enchantress, and Amanda Waller. I'm considering her a villain. It would be fun to see her pop up in a Harley Quinn movie, but it's not like she and Harley Quinn would do the Thelma and Louise thing. Let me know in the comments though, which female characters from the DC movie universe do you want to see Harley Quinn team up with? Think of a team that's a little bit smaller than the size of the Suicide Squad, so at least like 3 or 4 characters. So I definitely think they'd bring Katana back. I think they'd try to get Enchantress back. It depends on what happens to her in Suicide Squad. We haven't seen the movie yet, so we don't really know what's going to happen to the characters after, but I think it's fair to say that most of them will survive, because if everybody loves Cara Delevingne, for instance, as Enchantress, they're going to want to bring her back for more movies. And there will be Suicide Squad sequels, but this Harley Quinn thing is completely separate. It's like its own thing. What about Booster Gold though? I know I mentioned that. Stuff happening behind the scenes, big pivots happening in the tone of some of the films. So Booster Gold is back on the schedule now. It's not supposed to be a team-up. It sounds like it's just going to be an origin story for Booster Gold, and then he'll slowly integrate with the rest of the DC universe. If you've never read a Booster Gold comic book, Future's End is a pretty solid storyline. There's a lot of team-ups that he's had with Blue Beetle. Those are mostly about comedic relief. They're making it sound like the Booster Gold movie is just designed for his character, and we're not going to see Ted Kord in it. Maybe Easter eggs for Blue Beetle, but it's not going to be the big team-up movie we thought it was going to be. The person who's writing it is Zach Stentz, the person who wrote the latest episode of The Flash from last week. The funny thing about the DC Universe right now is because they don't have a Kevin Feige figure, like a single person driving the tone of all the films, kind of course correcting everything with like this grand unifying vision is that people have been talking about maybe Greg Berlanti becoming that person because he's amazing with characters. But you have Zack Snyder, who's producing most of these bigger Justice League related films. Then you have all these other directors doing their thing. So you have a bunch of different people all kind of doing their own thing. So from an organizational perspective, it's obviously vastly different from the way Marvel makes its movies. But let me know, do you want DC to have like a single person, like a Kevin Feige figure, informing the way they make all their films? So I'll just be really interested to see how this shapes up, but I'll keep doing Harley Quinn, Suicide Squad videos as we get new stuff. There'll be more Suicide Squad stuff happening this summer because that movie's coming out right at the end, but be sure to subscribe to get everything. I'm still working on a Game of Thrones Q&A. This week is like a big battle royale on The Flash, so it's going to be crazy. And for those asking about Legends of Tomorrow, just to talk about that for a second, careful for spoilers from this past week's episode of Legends of Tomorrow. They've kind of done a similar arc to Doctor Who: The End of Time, which was David Tennant's last Doctor Who story. We all know Arthur Darvill played Rory during Matt Smith's run on Doctor Who, so there's a lot of similar Doctor Who things happening. Captain Cold seems like he died on the series, but he signed an overall deal with Warner Brothers Television, and he's going to be a series regular on all of the DC TV shows, so expect some sort of timey-wimey explanation as to how we continue to see Captain Cold even though he's dead on Legends of Tomorrow. But they did name drop a giant Thanagarian army that was going to be attacking Earth. That was the whole reason for them helping Vandal Savage. That makes me think that the mystery character that's going to be appearing in the finale is going to be Adam Strange, because he's a big character during the Rann-Thanagar War, so it just remains to be seen, but I think that's what they're talking about when it comes to Season 2, this big Thanagarian threat. So those are just my quick thoughts on Legends of Tomorrow this past week. And the really cool news is that Warner Brothers invited me to go on their DC Comics studio tour. They have a whole bunch of props and studio exhibits. It's open to the public, but they're having a press day. They invited me to come, so I'll do a bonus video for that sometime later this week. I'll see if I can run away with some Kryptonite gauntlets, but while you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for last night's Game of Thrones, and you can click here for my Flash trailer for this week. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.